Good afternoon, Melissa.
Hi, Sarah.
Um, Today we are doing part two of understanding Social Security. And this is going to be another good one as Social Security is such the hot topic of conversation. And I'm excited to learn more about this topic. Um,
Yes.
so, Melissa, take it away.
Okay, I'm super excited. Can you cue up the presentation? Fantastic. Let me say this. As I have been putting this presentation together, it just really made me realize how complicated Social Security is and why it is one of the number one workshops that financial advisors put on or tax advisors because it's very, very complicated. And I'm also starting to understand just how messed up it is, right?
Hmm.
It's not an easy fix. And I think most people just think, oh, when am I going to take Social Security? That's really the main concern. But there's so much more to it. So I'm really excited to dig in here into part two. Uh,
Hmm.
Part one is amazing. You should go and see that. It's on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we may reference a few things, but let's get to it. Spouses, survivors, strategy traps, and policy penalties. Let's go.
Okay.
Okay, everybody knows who I am. I just wanted to put the disclaimer in yellow. Okay, this information is general in nature, is not intended to serve as individual advice. For guidance on your specific situation, please consult a qualified professional. So, do not take what we say and apply it to your specific situation and say that Melissa told me this is what
Yeah.
I need to do, especially if I haven't had a conversation with you. Okay, next slide. Okay, one of the things I'm really beginning to realize, Social Security is not an individual benefit, specifically if you're married, right? Um, I'm single. I don't have to worry about spouse, and I don't have children. I don't have to worry about children and those types of things. But most people do. They either have a spouse or children or both, right? And so what I'm realizing now is it's not just an individual benefit. Most no, most of the time, people are thinking when they make their Social Security decision, it is only affecting them. That is not true. It affects spousal benefits. It affects survivor benefits. It also affects divorced spouses. And so claiming decisions do affect more than one person. So, but most of the time, I think people are very laser focused and they're only thinking about how it's going to affect themselves. So, we'll talk more about this as we move along.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Spousal benefits. And this is for people that are living, both living and married. Okay. Both partners are living and they are married. Okay. So, a spouse, oh, I think my animations are not in here. It's okay. A spouse eligible for up to 50% of their of the workers' full retirement age benefit. So let's talk through that again because that was in part one. What is the full retirement age or the FRA, as you hear a lot of people in the industry talk about? Full retirement age for most of us is age 67. If you are, I think, 60 or older, your full retirement age might be 66, might be 66 in a few months. But for most of us, the full retirement age is 67. So this is what they're talking about. So a spouse may be eligible for 50% of a person, should put it this way, a person may be eligible for up to 50% of their spouse's full retirement age benefit. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what does that mean? First of all, they have to be married at least a year. The worker has to have filed for benefits. And we're going to talk about the difference between being eligible and being entitled, right? They have to have filed for benefits. So the spousal benefit is based on that FRA number only.
Yeah.
It's not if they took it early, took it late, it doesn't matter. Their benefit is based upon that number. Okay. And claiming before FRA permanently reduces the spousal benefit. So most people don't think about that, right? Especially if one of the marriage partners was the breadwinner, made significantly more money than the other person. Um, Very often that is the man, right? And he's still concerned about his wife if he dies early, those types of things. What type of benefit is going to be there for his spouse? Um, if he claims early, that will reduce her benefit as well. If whenever he passes away. So, here's the rule of thumb. And for the purposes of this, let's say that the husband made more money and the wife didn't, because that's how it is most of the time. Um, so the spouse, the wife, would receive the higher of either her own benefit or the spousal benefit, but not both. So I'm giving you two examples here. Let's say the husband's FRA, his full retirement age benefit, is $3,000 a month. Her FRA is $2,500 a month. So what they do is they take the husband's and they cut it in half, right?
Mhm.
Half of his is 1,500. Well, hers is higher. Remember, so they can take the higher of the two. So in this case, their total household benefit is 5,500. I give you another example. His is still 3,000, hers is 1,000, but half of his is 1,500, which is higher than hers. So in this case, they would get 4,500. Most people don't really realize how this works, right?
Yeah.
And I'm basing it off of the FRA because that's the number that Social Security is using, unless the husband goes and files early, in which case her benefit is also reduced. Okay. Next slide. Okay. I wanted to talk about some common misunderstandings. And actually, this should be for spousal and survivor benefits, but here's one of the common misunderstandings. As we already talked about in part one, when people take Social Security early, there is a permanent reduction. In fact, for every month they take it early, there is a permanent reduction.
Mhm.
But for every year they wait, there's an 8% increase. So if they wait from 67 to 68, they get an 8% increase, another 8%, another 8% up to age 70, right? But here, delayed credits do not increase the spousal benefit. So remember the last slide we said if the spouse takes it early, he reduces if the husband takes it early, he reduces his wife's spousal benefit. But if he takes it late, her benefit does not go up.
Uh,
So in this scenario, it's best to just take it at FRA at
mm,
60, 67, right? Okay. Claiming early locks in permanent reductions. Not exactly true. Okay. And we're going to talk about that on another slide. So allow me to come back to that. The other thing is high earners often assume their spouse is covered. That's another misunderstanding, because there's remember I talked about entitlement versus eligibility. We have to talk about eligibility first, and we're going to talk about that on a slide. But I think a lot of times people will just assume, well, I've been the breadwinner and I've been married all this time and my spouse is automatically eligible. We have to look at some of those things. And I'm also going to talk about some of the penalties and things that can reduce Social Security, even if you were originally eligible. Okay. Now, on the survivor side, things that are often looked paid to a surviving spouse, children, or dependents. A surviving spouse can receive up to 100% of the worker's benefit. And notice the language up to.
yeah.
Anytime I see up to, I have a flag because
Mhm.
it determines what percentage up to 100%. So I think what happens is sometimes people are assuming it's going to be 100%, but it's up to, right?
Right.
The benefit is based on what the worker was receiving or was entitled to receive. And again, this is very true for many widows. This becomes their largest and most important source of income, right?
Yeah.
Especially depending upon what generations you're thinking about, especially before like the world wars, when women primarily were domestic workers or homemakers, right? They worked at home and really didn't start getting out into the workforce prior to that. But at that time, the husband really was the breadwinner and he was the one that was paying into Social Security, and she may not have ever paid into it, right?
Mhm.
So again, the things are the lines become blurred as the generations have moved forward. Next slide.
Exactly.
Okay, this chart on the left, I know it's small, there's a whole lot going on. And we're not going to read through it, but I want to tell you basically what it is. It's a decision flow chart, and it basically is how do people decide. It's part of the thought process when someone's trying to decide when to take Social Security. You start off, are you married, are you widowed, are you divorced, right?
Mhm.
And then you go through this flow chart to figure out eligibility. It kind of helps you determine when you should take benefits, if you're going to get your benefit or you're going to get half of your spouse's benefit, or you're going to get part of your divorced spouse. There are so many combinations. And so, at a minimum, there are 7 areas to consider. I promise you, almost every person I have talked to in the past almost 29 years about Social Security, they're not thinking about these 7 things. They're thinking about one or two.
Yeah.
They are, when do I start and how much am I going to get? Those
Yeah,
are,
exactly.
but there's a lot more to it. So you can see for a single person, there are easily 20 to 30 possible combinations for Social Security. I didn't even want to go into the number if you're a couple, it explodes. So it's not an easy thing to consider. Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, then there's this thing called IRMA. You never hear anybody talking about IRMA, but we see IRMA every time we're doing a financial plan. It's part of our software, right? But most people don't know what IRMA is. So IRMA is an extra charge added to Medicare Parts B and D. And for those that are not familiar, Part A is hospital. That is automatic for people that turn age 65. Part B is for doctor's visits, and Part D is for prescriptions. So these are really important things, right? So it is triggered by higher income. And it is based on their modified adjusted gross income from 2 years earlier. So if 2 years earlier you made a whole lot of money, it could affect your IRMA or your Medicare premiums for the entire year based upon income that you made 2 years ago, right? And then your Social Security decisions can increase it. So this is really an important thing to think about. And I never hear anybody talking about IRMA, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is why your Social Security decisions really, really do matter. Your claiming decision affects your taxable income. And remember, in part one, we talked about how much of Social Security is going to be taxed and all of that. And to be honest, Sarah, we probably need to have a part three because there's some changes that came in the one big beautiful bill,
Mm-hmm.
Social Security credits. So again, it is a moving target. So even right now, there are changes being made. So we may have to come back not next month, but a little bit later and give some maybe some Social Security updates. Okay.
Yeah.
So the main thing is that poor coordination can really increase people's Medicare costs. And of course, one of the biggest expenses that people have in retirement is healthcare costs.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we want to be very, very sensitive to. Okay. So the bottom line, higher income can mean higher Medicare costs, which is another reason for really taking a deep dive into when and how to take Social Security.
Yeah. I feel like healthcare is like the top three: Social Security, healthcare, and then how am I getting taxed in retirement?
Absolutely. Because it
Mm.
can make a huge, huge difference.
And Social Security affects all that when
Yeah.
you take it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we are just talked a little bit about claiming early. So, and sometimes people need to claim early, and sometimes it makes sense for people to claim early, but claiming early can punish the survivor, right? We already talked about for every month that someone takes their Social Security earlier than the full retirement age, which is 67 for most of us, that
Mhm.
there is a permanent penalty. That also penalizes the survivor, right? And most of the time, people are not thinking about that. They're just thinking about what I need today, and I get that. You know, you're here now. I have bills today, and some people do not think about what happens after they pass away. But if most people, if they're married, have children, have beneficiaries, they are thinking about that, but they don't think about it when they're just trying to decide what to do with their Social Security. So, what I like to say is early claiming is not just a personal decision, it is also a survivor decision, and it may change someone deciding when they should actually take it.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. Divorce, spouse, and survivor benefits. Now, this one is very interesting. So, divorced spouses may qualify if they were married, if their marriage lasted 10 years or more. Now, when I first learned about this, this is very interesting. My parents were married about 10 years. I went and looked up when they got married, and I went and looked up when they got divorced. And it was just shy of 10 years.
Ah, okay.
I bet you. Now, of course, this was like was it in the 70s? Yeah, this was like back in the 70s when my when my parents got divorced. I'm sure my mother was not thinking about this at all
Mhm.
because she probably hold out a few more months so get she could benefit from my father's social security if it was higher. Um, it all worked out, but again, it just made me think about it. I was like, oh my gosh, do you know how many people, especially when they just want to be divorced, they just like it doesn't. I just got to get out of here. But they might be really, really close to where it might make sense for you to stay married a little bit longer, right? So here's some of the cool things about it. If you were married 10 years or more and then you got divorced and you are unmarried, and this is the reason why some people don't remarry,
Yeah.
your ex spouse is entitled to benefits. You don't need their permission. You don't have to talk to them about it. If they remarry, it does not affect your eligibility, right? And many eligible individuals never claim these benefits because they don't know that they exist. Now,
Mm.
here's what I think about when I'm looking at this. Remember in part one, we talked about one of so many reasons why Social Security is basically running out of money and all these kinds of things. So think about this. You're no longer married to this person. And not only can you get a spousal benefit, and it doesn't affect it, he's still getting his full amount, and you're getting your full amount of whatever that number is. And if he remarries, the new spouse can also qualify over time for benefits. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about maybe three people can be getting Social Security off of the one person that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, to me, that was just very interesting. And then, of course, it says retirees who claim later absorb the consequences of not filing earlier when benefits were higher and rules were less restrictive. So over time, just like we're going to talk a little bit later on about file and suspend, that doesn't exist anymore. So again, some of the rules are getting more stringent now, and the benefits are decreasing. Versus if someone had went ahead and claimed previously, it could have maybe had a higher benefit or could have been easier to get. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that is interesting. It makes me think of like the spouse doesn't work
Hmm.
and can still claim
Hmm.
even if they're not married anymore. And then that person could potentially get married to another,
Hmm.
and for the next 10 years, she doesn't work or he doesn't work. And it's like you got all these people possibly not paying into the Social Security system, but still getting Social Security benefits. That
Yeah.
that's very
Think about
interesting.
it. He could have had three wives or four wives that he was married to for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it could be the other way around. But again,
Right.
and now you're talking about three or four people could all be getting a full benefit off of his one Social Security.
Right.
So
That's scary and interesting.
both at the same time.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, next slide. Okay, here we're talking about eligible versus entitled. And I think this is important too. So, eligible means you meet the rules to claim. You are eligible to claim. And entitled means you have filed and you are receiving benefits. And of course, there are some strategies that require entitlement. So, what I wanted to talk about in here is what makes somebody eligible.
Right.
I have come across this a couple of times because sometimes when we're working with younger clients, and we always ask for a Social Security statement, sometimes there's nothing on it because they have not become eligible. So
Mhm.
let's talk about eligibility. For someone to be eligible for Social Security, they have to have earned 40 credits, which is about 10 years of work. So let me kind of explain what I mean by that. 40 credits is 40 quarters, right? So that is 10 years. But there's some little caveats to it, right? So the credits are earned through Social Security covered employment. Now, depending upon where you work, you may not be paying into Social Security. Most places do, but sometimes teachers and government workers, sometimes hospital workers, however their pay structure is set up, they are not paying into Social Security. They may have a pension, they may have other things. There are even some companies that have a Social Security substitute because they're not paying into Social Security. In fact, the VA does that. I have a client right now who wants to leave early,
Mhm.
um, and she can get her Social Security substitute between now and age 62.
Okay.
She still has Social Security, but they have something that where she can leave early and start getting like even earlier Social Security payment. But anyway, okay, so most workers are going to earn up to 4 credits per year, and you must be at least age 62 to claim retirement benefits. But the eligibility is not based on your work record, it's not based on income, it's not based on assets. And so I put a little note down here. I know it's small, and these are based upon the 2025 numbers. You have to have earned at least $1,770 in the quarter at a company that pays into Social Security to earn 1 credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, here's what gets really interesting. You could earn all your credits in the first quarter. If you earned at least, I take that number times 4, it's 7,080 earned at the beginning of the year. You've earned your credits for the whole year.
Yeah.
So someone could effectively work January through March, earn a little over $7,000, and then not work for the rest of the year, and they've made their 4 credits for the year.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they've done that 10 times.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be 10 consecutive years. As long as they've done it 10 years, they now are eligible for Social Security benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple right now. Both couples are working. The wife is an educator. The husband has a more high-powered job. He makes, substantially more. They have 2 young children at home, and they are considering her not working and just staying home with the kids.
Yeah.
So one of my recommendations, when I actually looked at her Social Security statement, she's really, really close to hitting her 4 credits. And I said, before you do that, let me just explain to you that you might want her to, she might want to work. It might be in your best interest for her to work and get the remaining credits before she decides to come home and be a homemaker, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know. I hope I'm not offending anyone, because I don't know what the appropriate word is now. Because, stay home take care of her children. That's a valuable job, right? But her to not be in the traditional workforce is, I guess, maybe a better way to say it. And when I said that to him, he's like, "Oh wow, I hadn't even thought of that." Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is important. So, and I also have 2 younger clients that have not, their Social Security statement, they have not worked the 40 quarters yet. So
Yeah.
we're waiting. We're waiting. So I can't even really put in a number in our financial planning software for that. I can kind of estimate it, but I'd rather wait until we have the actual number. So this is important.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the consecutive years, because what we put a lot in our blogs and on our content is that women tend to take more career breaks
Oh,
than men.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's important for women to know that they can still earn their credits. It doesn't have to be 10 years
Right.
consecutive. It's just
I'm
over
glad,
time.
I'm glad you brought that up. And maybe at some point we should talk about that, how different it is for women because of those breaks, right?
Yeah.
Women stopping to stay home with their children, or maybe it's not children, maybe it's caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
I have some clients that are dealing with that right now, and including myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it really changes your perspective.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to click my mouse like you're in control. Okay, file and suspend. This is something that not only have I heard of for a long time, Sarah, you and I, we did a workshop 2 years ago on Social Security, and file and suspend was part of it.
Yeah.
Find out file and suspend is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone who's watching, that's why January 2026 is sitting here. So whenever you're looking at this, I'm telling you this as of what is going on right now, January 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is how the old strategy worked. You could file and suspend your benefits at any time. So maybe you started Social Security. Here's a real life example. Because I know there's a lot of age discrimination. Let's say you lost your job and you're 61, but you were really close to 62. And it was hard for you to find another job. I mean, you were at the top of your game, right? You were probably in your highest earning years, and it was hard for you to find another job kind of in that same pay range. But you needed income. So you decided to start your Social Security at 62. Then you got a really great job. most people didn't know that they could suspend, right?
Mm.
To suspend your Social Security. Not only could you suspend it, if it was in the first year, you could pay back what you received, and you can wait as if you had never received it. Like you could wait all the way to your full retirement age or
Yeah.
beyond, right? So here's what would happen though. If you suspended it and your spouse was claiming on your record, your spouse could continue to get benefits even though you had suspended.
Mm. Okay.
Another major issue, like if I'm not receiving benefits, but my spouse is receiving benefits, like I suspended my Social Security, they should not, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, right? So this was eliminated in 2015.
Mm.
So I'm glad I did the research to go through this.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you what is available on the next slide. Okay, what you can do is a voluntary suspension. This is what's still in place right now, but it's only after you've attained your full retirement age. So if you started before, if you file Social Security before your full retirement age, you cannot suspend it. What you can do is you can spend it anytime after your full retirement age. It will stop your benefits temporarily. You can restart at a higher amount. Like you could maybe stop it at 67 and then start it back up at age 70.
Hmm.
And then you'd have 3 years of whatever that amount is that you started with. Because remember, you started early, it would grow. So it helps partially to undo your early claiming. It won't do it completely. Because think about it, you could have claimed 5 years early.
Hmm.
But if you wait until your full retirement age, you could, what's the word I'm trying to say? You could suspend it for 3 years. Now here's something else crazy that people do. Some people do not file and they're older than 70. There is no benefit to waiting.
Yes.
After 70, that number is not going to get higher other than
Hmm.
cost of living adjustment. So I know a few people that did not file. Like, what? What are you waiting on?
Yeah.
Right. So it will increase the future monthly benefits after your full retirement age, and it will restore some of the income that you lost due to early filing. So this is something that is available. But I think about if someone is in their early 60s, waiting to 67 can be, for some people, that's a really, really long time,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard to do. But at least it's available.
Hmm. Okay.
Next. Okay. Here's a bunch of myths and realities that I think are important. Okay, so one of the myths is you can stop and start Social Security to turn the benefits off and on, and you can pretty much do that anytime you want. And that is not true. So you can withdraw an application once within 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay. You can repay your benefits. You can repay your benefits as if you had not done it. You can reset your claiming decision, right? But they're very strict about these particular rules. So again, the myth that you can suspend and restart anytime, that's not true. But here are some things that are true. Once you file, you're locked into actual payments. That is true. You can repay only within the first year after filing,
Hmm.
only the first year. And you can suspend and restart only between the ages of 66, if that's your full retirement age, and age 70. So remember, everyone's full retirement age is between 66 and 67, is somewhere in there, right? Okay. Next slide. Okay. Here are some other things that nobody is really thinking about when they think about Social Security. Okay. There's two things I want to share with you all. One of them is the windfall elimination provision. Okay. This is something that can reduce someone's Social Security check if they also receive a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security.
Mm.
Now, Sarah, you and I know pensions they've been going away.
Yes.
I mean, when I see someone and I meet someone, they have a pension, I'm like, that is fabulous.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
that's something that the company paid into for on your behalf, and the client, the employee never paid into. What a benefit. These are going away. So you don't come into contact with too many people that have them. But if that pension was from a job that did not pay into Social Security, your Social Security check could be reduced. So here's an example, because I might be confusing some people. You worked at a job that paid into Social Security. And let's say you did that for 10 years, right? Because we already talked about eligibility, right? Because you got to be eligible.
Right.
And then you switched and you went to a government job or a teaching job that did not pay into Social Security, but you had a pension. Okay. So what happens? Your Social Security check is smaller than expected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why does it feel unfair? First of all, it is unfair, but this is what it is. You paid into Social Security, but the rules assumed you worked your whole career there when you didn't. So the people that it does often impact, remember I talked about this a little bit before, teachers, government workers, public sector employees, people that work for a municipality, a city, a county,
Mm-hmm.
it usually affects them.
Okay.
So guess what? Most of these people don't realize that there's this windfall elimination provision.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, but remember, for all the things that we've talked about where the husband and the ex-wife and the new wife and the next new wife are all getting money, here's a situation where you actually paid into Social Security and now your check is smaller because you also got a pension.
Yeah.
They're both not fair. Neither one of them is fair, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like one, you're making too much money, and then the other one, somebody didn't even make any money and they're getting money. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm. Okay.
Very interesting. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's the other one. This one is the government pension offset. This one is even harsher. Okay, so it can reduce or eliminate spousal or survivor benefits if you receive a government pension. Okay, so the example, your spouse earned, let's say I have a husband, he earns Social Security and he passes away.
Okay.
I'm expecting to receive their Social Security benefit, but I also receive a government pension.
Mm-hmm.
My benefit can be reduced or wiped out completely to zero.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you imagine how upset I would be?
Yes.
And what happens is a lot of times people are expecting it and they find out at the 11th hour that this is what's going to happen. It's not good.
No. And especially if their government pension wouldn't have been as much as their Social Security benefit.
Exactly. And then what can you do now? Now that husband has passed away, maybe you've started your pension, maybe you haven't. But the whole thing is, if there was something that you could do to rectify it, you can't do it now. It would be something that you would have had to have done maybe some years ago, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it would be a scenario where you may have decided to not continue to work where you're working, where you're getting the pension, and maybe go into private sector or some other company. You know what I mean? It might have made different decisions about where you worked and paid into your retirement benefits.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is a deterrent to get a government job that has a government pension.
And isn't that interesting? Because for many, many years, for decades, people always talked about get you a good government job. They got
Yeah.
great benefits. You can work there 20, 30, 40 years, right? And now we feel very differently about it. And I would go as far as saying, and everybody knows it's January 2026. We know who the president is. When I think about all the people that have lost jobs in government, have
Mm-hmm.
lost jobs at the CDC, the list goes on and on and on. And there's a ripple effect of that as well. We're not even talking about unemployment benefits, but I'm thinking about the burden on the states for all these people that have lost their jobs that are now, applying for unemployment benefits in a way that probably almost feels like COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hit and all of a sudden, like nobody was working.
Nobody was.
Everybody was trying to get a check. So, of course, it does have additional repercussions.
Mm-hmm. And I would add too, I believe this does not affect military government pensions. Like my dad gets his retirement pension benefit and also Social Security. So
That's a good question. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't look that up.
yeah. Well, I know he gets both.
It's both. Okay. Yeah. But what you may not know is he getting the full amount? It may have been reduced.
That's true too.
It could have been reduced because it said it could either be reduced or wiped out. So obviously His is not wiped out, but it could have been reduced.
It could have been reduced. Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
look into that.
Okay. Report back. Okay. Who should worry about the windfall elimination provision or the government pension offset? So these are people that should pay attention to it. You worked as a teacher, a government employee, a public servant, right? You receive or will receive a government pension. I mean, shoot, this is all the people in Congress and all of that. This is including them.
Mm,
Part of your career without paying into Social Security.
mhm,
You expect a spousal or survivor benefit. You are divorced after a long marriage, 10 years or more. You are widowed or maybe in the future. Now, that's one that I think a lot of people don't think about, but the chances of you and your spouse dying together
mhm,
is very unlikely, uncommon, or the chances of a wife dying before a husband, unless she is considerably older than him, because women live longer. So, again, that's something to think about. So, here's a question you could ask yourself: did Social Security taxes come out of every paycheck I ever earned? And if the answer is no, WEP or GPO may apply.
mhm.
So it's something to take a look at. We already talked about WEP can shrink your Social Security check. GPO can reduce it or erase it altogether.
Mhm.
Now, these are not mistakes. This is just the way it is. This is just the policies that are out there. And so this is the really important thing. Finding out at retirement is too late.
Yeah.
It is the worst time to find out. You are 65 or 60 or 70 or whatever the magic age is for you. And now you're just now finding out that you're social, well, let's say 62 or greater, right? Because you can't file until you're at least 62. You're 62 or greater, and now you find out that your Social Security check is either going to be reduced or eliminated when
Have
you counted on it, right?
Yeah, have you dealt with a lot of clients that they're finding out when you're putting in their information and helping them plan?
Honestly, I haven't.
That's good.
But what I have experienced, even right now, I have a couple of clients that are getting divorced. They've been married 10 years or more.
Mhm,
So we're having some of these conversations because once the divorce is complete, we're going to do a complete plan. And now, it makes me look at Social Security a little bit differently. Normally we just take their number, right? But what we really need is we need to look at their number and compare it to the ex spouse
yes.
number, right? Because if they've been married 10 years or more, his number is higher. If
Mhm,
50% of his FRA is higher than hers, she can claim his.
yeah.
Oh, one thing that's probably not in this presentation is also when you claim and you're trying to, some people try to, let me claim mine for now and then later on I'm gonna claim his, or vice versa. When you claim, you got to claim, you're claiming it all at one time, and whichever is the higher is what you get. Because
Mhm,
people are trying to strategically decide, if his was higher, I want to start with his, and then, or mine was lower. Like, it gets crazy. You have to claim it all at one time.
okay.
Okay. All right. Why do these disproportionately affect women? Um, there's a couple of reasons. There are more women in public sector education roles. When you think about it, I mean, when I think about most of my teachers were women, right?
Yeah.
Rely heavily on spousal or survivor benefits. We already talked about that earlier, right?
Mhm,
And then a lot of times they're discovering these penalties at the point of claiming.
mm,
I often think about, I don't think about it as much now, but when I was newer in the business and I would meet a couple where the wife may not have necessarily been a homemaker, but maybe she worked a part-time job, right?
mhm,
Um, but she really didn't, she was not the banker of the family. And I always try to find out who is the banker, who's the one that's really managing the money and really knows where everything is going and all of that. What would often happen is, maybe the husband will pass away and she was completely lost. She didn't know where anything was. Husband was taking care of everything. And again, there may have been decisions that maybe should have been made when he was living
mhm,
that she didn't know about. So that learning curve is very, very steep, and it's coming at a time when this person is grieving, right? So there's so many things that, like I said, it disproportionately affects women. And again, these are policy penalties. They're not calculation errors. This is just the way Social Security works.
Yeah.
Um, and again, we'll talk a little bit about, we might just do a whole webinar in a couple of months on the one big beautiful bill on OBA. Might do that later. Next slide. Okay. So ultimately, what we're saying is that Social Security is a coordination problem. When we think about retirement income planning, especially when people are usually within 5 years of like, I'm ready to let it go. This is a lot of the work that Sarah and I do, and we have to look at a lot of different things. So even just in the financial plan, we're looking at longevity. One of the worst things that can happen if someone retires is that they outlive their money. So we are always projecting to age 100. They may not live to age 100. They might live beyond 100, but we're still going to project out to age 100. We got to look at marital history. And again, this is the same thing with Social Security. We're looking at survivors' needs. We're definitely looking at taxes. We're definitely looking at healthcare, right? But now we also got to look at pension rules. We got to think about, what did you earn 2 years ago? Because we got to think about IRMA. Like, none of this is easy. It's not just how much money am I going to make and when should I start taking it? As you can see, there's a lot of other considerations that we need to think about. And it's better to do it several years before someone actually decides to retire. Now, I want to say this. When I use the word retire, I'm using it very loosely, because really, the generations now, we don't really retire, we transition. Very few of us actually stop working and sit on the porch with some iced tea and don't do anything. And if we do, we generally don't live long. So now what people are doing, they're traveling, they're spending time with their grandkids, they're volunteering, they're checking off bucket list items. They're living their best lives, right? Which is great. But the money that you have to support that lifestyle, you should start looking at that, several years prior to when you transition. And again, there is no best age in isolation. And that's how most people are claiming or deciding what to do about Social Security. They're making that decision in isolation because they're not looking at any of the other things.
Right. Yeah. We're just looking at, when can I take it? What's the earliest I can take it? Has that changed? Is it still 62?
It is the same.
Yeah.
It is the same. Sarah, I don't know if you remember this. When we did the workshop 2 years ago, there was a gentleman in the workshop whose wife was terminally ill. Remember that?
Yes.
And the reason why he was in the workshop was not so much for his own Social Security. He was trying to figure out what could be done about her Social Security. And I think she was like maybe in her late 50s. And based on what he told me, she may never make it to 62. And of course, his question was, what happens to her benefits? Nothing.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, I'm saying unless now, unless she was eligible and her benefits would have been more than his, then maybe he could claim the spousal benefit. We didn't even get into it that deep.
Yeah.
For the most part, if someone passes away, like if I pass away before age 62, all the money that I paid into Social Security, it's not going to anybody.
Right.
Yep. That's the way it is.
I guess that's kind of how maybe the whole system balances itself, because you have people that pay in that never get to receive it.
Right. It's like life insurance, right?
Yeah.
People that have paid premiums, and then maybe they lapse the policy. And no one got paid. Yeah, it is kind of like that. Do we have one more slide? It might be.
We have 3, I think.
Oh, okay. This is important. Okay. Dangerous claiming assumptions. I'll just take it at 62. I hear that a lot. Some people like, I've been paying into this. I want my money. I don't believe it's going to be there. I hear that all the time. But here's one I haven't heard. The Social Security rep said this was best. I've never heard that. But of course, I've never called Social Security to talk about my Social Security benefits. What I can tell you is that they do process claims. They do not provide planning advice.
Yeah.
So if you are just calling up there to ask the Social Security rep when should you take Social Security, you are doing yourself an injustice.
Hmm.
You don't know anything else about your situation other than what they're seeing on that computer screen. So
Exactly.
do not do that. Or this one, my spouse will be fine. I haven't heard that one either. But the first two, I'm gonna take it at 62. I don't think it's gonna be there, so I need to get in. I need to get in the line. I need to get in the queue now. I've
Hmm.
heard that a lot. What I will say, these are my two little quotes I put. Assumptions are the termites of relationships.
I like that.
And isn't that true? And this is
Yes.
the one I thought was so cute. Before you assume, try this crazy method called asking.
Yes.
Ask somebody.
Yes.
Ask somebody who knows who is qualified to answer, right?
Hmm.
And then provide them all the information that they need in order to give you a good answer. Okay, next slide. Okay. Ooh, this got to be the last slide because it says the bottom line. Okay, but this is true. Social Security is not automatic and it's not simple.
Not
Very
at all.
complicated. And your claiming decisions, for the most part, are permanent, right? Benefits are affected by marriage, divorce, and death. We've talked about that.
Hmm.
Taxes, Medicare, pensions change the outcome. We've
Hmm.
covered that. We've covered the windfall elimination provision. We've covered the government pension offset. Those are policy penalties. They're not necessarily just the way it is. The biggest risk is claiming without coordination. I cannot stress that enough. Again, if you are making your decision in isolation, you're doing yourself a disservice,
Yeah.
right? And again, Social Security is planning. It's not just paperwork. It's not just going and claiming and now the check is coming on the first of every month. Some planning really needs to be done.
Yeah.
All right, is that it?
This last one.
Yes. Made it to another.
That
I
was
want
really
to thank
good.
everybody for watching. If you're watching now live, if you're not, if you're watching later, thank you for watching. And I want to thank you, Sarah, because you were the one that got me to finally start doing these webinars. And I was very reluctant, very hesitant. And then I started doing it. I was like, I actually like doing it.
Yeah, me too.
I like us
And
doing it together. It's fun for me. I like the camaraderie and the conversation. And thank you for pushing me.
yes. Well, thank you for being willing because I know it's not easy. It's scary for me too. But it's easy when you have someone else
Absolutely.
doing it together. So,
Now, before we end, you're presenting next month.
yes.
Do you have your topic already?
Yes, I'm going to do the thrift savings plan. So, a military benefit for my military folks out there. The thrift savings plan is an investment vehicle that is available to us. And I think it's an important topic. It's very, very important.
I'm super excited, not only for your veteran clients, but I have clients that work at the VA. I have social workers that work at the VA. I have administrators that work at the VA, and they also are part of the TSP.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to your presentation next month.
Oh, yay. I am too. And thank you so much. This was really good. And I think for my generation, I can't speak on the whole generation, but for me, I kind of am just planning as if it's not going to be there.
Okay.
Like I have my social security statement, I see what I'm going to get, but I think for me planning as if it's not going to be available
Mhm.
is kind of like, okay, if it's there, great. If it's not, I've planned ahead. So,
Well, I think that's a good strategy. I also think that something's going to be there. As a matter of fact, and this is probably about a year ago, I was talking with another advisor and she was really looking into all of the proposed recommendations of things to either solve Social Security, whatever. And there were really some unique um, recommendations that they were coming up with. I may pull that information out and kind of scrub it a little bit, and maybe we'll talk about that also when we talk about OBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill. Just so people can start thinking about what might. I don't think that nothing's going to be there. Like there's no way they can have you pay into Social Security out of your check for decades and decades, and then say, "Oh, there's nothing left."
yeah, we got a zero balance.
Right? Feels like that GPO, doesn't it?
But no, this was really good. I learn every time we do one of these webinars, I learn something new. So thank
I
you
do too.
for
Okay. I'm looking forward to February, Sarah. And for those of you that are out there, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Have a good day, y'all.
Okay.